One mistake here, and Alexander's empire would have died before it began. But no general in history ever fought a battle this perfectly, until Alexander did at Issus. It's 333 BC. The Persian Empire rules from the Mediterranean to the mountains of India. Its king, Darius III, commands the largest army on earth. But in the north of Syria, a 23-year-old king from Macedonia is marching straight toward him, Alexander the Great. After the Battle of Granicus, Alexander was expected to stop, consolidate, maybe even celebrate. Instead, he pushed forward, cutting deep into Persian lands, a move that terrified Darius. Darius mobilized a massive force, perhaps 100,000 men, and aimed to crush this upstart before he reached the heart of Asia. But fate placed them both at Issus, a narrow coastal plain trapped between mountain and sea. Darius thought Alexander was cornered. Alexander saw something else, an opportunity to turn a disadvantage into perfection. Night falls. The Persian campfires stretch for miles. Macedonian soldiers sharpen their spears in silence. The air hums with tension. Alexander studies the terrain. To most, it's a trap. To him, it's geometry, a narrow field that neutralizes Persian numbers. At dawn, he mounts Bucephalus, raises his arm, and gives the order, advance. Alexander positions his right flank along the river, his elite companion cavalry beside him. The Persians surge forward. Arrows darken the sky. Shields slam. The world erupts. Then, the moment of genius. Alexander notices a gap forming in the Persian line. He pivots his cavalry diagonally, cutting toward Darius himself. It's the maneuver of a chess master, executed in seconds. Alexander charges straight for the Persian king. Panic spreads. Darius hesitates, then flees. When their king ran, the empire's courage ran with him. Tens of thousands lie dead. The Persian camp falls silent. Alexander finds Darius's family, the queen, mother, and daughters, trembling in a tent. He treats them with honor, not as trophies. It was mercy the Persians didn't expect, and loyalty his men would never forget. The Battle of Issus was more than a victory. It was proof of genius under pressure. Outnumbered, surrounded, yet utterly in control. From that narrow valley, Alexander opened the road to Egypt, Babylon, and the heart of Asia. In one day, he didn't just defeat an empire, he rewrote what leadership meant. Because sometimes, one decision, one moment, changes everything. And that moment was Issus. If history moves you, subscribe and relive the battles that shaped our world. The world saw that courage, not numbers, decides the fate of empires. From this narrow valley, Alexander's path now stretched toward Egypt, Babylon, and beyond, an empire waiting to be taken. The Battle of Issus proved that even the mightiest power can fall, if met by genius and unbreakable will. Because Issus was more than a battle, it was a message to the world. Tell me in the comments, was this the greatest tactical victory in history? From this moment on, the East would never look at the West the same way. Alexander's victory didn't just redraw maps, it reshaped civilization itself. His march would carry Greek ideas, science, and language across continents. The world of philosophy met the world of empire, and a new era was born. But Alexander wasn't done. His eyes were already on Egypt. There, he'd build a city that would bear his name for thousands of years. To his men, it seemed madness. To him, it was destiny. Because the fire lit at Issus would soon consume the entire Persian Empire. If this moment gives you chills, hit like. It helps more history lovers find stories like this. The world was about to change, and it started with a boy and a horse on a narrow riverbank. Issus proved that courage and strategy can defy impossible odds. It proved that greatness is born in moments of crisis, not comfort. That's why the story of Issus still echoes today, because it's a story of vision against fear. Centuries later, Caesar would study Alexander's flanking maneuvers at Issus. Napoleon would call him the perfect commander. Even modern generals still analyze his map. But what they can't replicate is his mind, his instinct to see the battlefield as a chessboard of destiny. That instinct turned a narrow plain into a legend. And in that legend, every soldier who fought at Issus found immortality. If you're still here, you're one of us. Subscribe and join the army of history lovers. The river still flows today, quiet and unchanged, but beneath it lies history. Here, the earth once shook with the march of men who believed they could change the world, and one man did. From Issus to Babylon, his journey would shape the fate of nations for centuries. And yet, it all began with one river, one king, one decision. Because sometimes, history turns on a single heartbeat. That heartbeat was Issus. Alexander left the battlefield victorious, but his eyes already searched the horizon. Egypt, Syria, Mesopotamia, each would fall like dominoes before him. Which battle should we cover next? Gaugamela or Tyre? Comment below. But none would ever match the purity of Issus, a battle where genius met fate. In the ashes of Persian pride, a new world was born, one built on speed, vision, and the belief that no limit is final. That's why we remember Alexander, not just for what he won, but for how he dared. And Issus was his proof. The moment the world learned that destiny favors the bold. If this story inspired you, subscribe now. More battles, more brilliance, more history reborn.